All right, Lobo basketball is back, so I'm back. Welcome to the Cherry Heat Check, unofficial Lobo basketball podcast. I am Ricky Thompson. We've had our first game here. Today is November 6, 2025. Lobos defeated Texas A&M last night to kick off the Coach Eric Olen era, being the 23rd straight opening win for the New Mexico Lobos. Would have to look back, I believe, to Richie McKay's debut, where he lost to Cal for the Lobos' last opening day loss for the basketball team. A lot of things looked promising. A lot of players got in the game, and there's a lot to talk about. So I'm going to try to break it down for you over the next 30 minutes here with what we saw in defense, distribution of minutes, and some things that stuck out to me, and then a quick preview of the upcoming game this weekend against UT Arlington. So let's get into it. Thank you all for joining. All right, as we know, New Mexico won last night 76-54 over East Texas A&M. First win for Coach Eric Olen. Announced attendance by Jeff Grammer on Twitter was 10,726. Season tickets sold up to yesterday, I believe, was over 8,200, and that was more than was sold last season. So pretty interesting to see people are still excited, even with Patino out and Olen in, a brand new roster, and a lot of people were there to check it out. A very good crowd. Starting for the Lobos in this first game, Dayton Albury, the transfer from Utah State, who big things are expected from him, got in there with 6 points. Was not really finishing that well at the rim, still found ways to affect the game. 6 rebounds for him. Antonio Chol also starting, went 4 of 10 from the field in 21 minutes, added 3 rebounds and a monster dunk off of a nice pump fake. So it's going to be important for Chol, with what a great shooter he is, to have the ability to pump fake, put the ball on the ground, go to the rack, or make other decisions, because after teams watch some of his film, they're going to close out hard on that three-point shot, and he's going to have to find other ways to score. Chris Howell did not really have much of an impact on offense, finishing with 3 points. But as we expected, he is really the patient leader on this team, never letting the team or things on the court get out of control. Had some really heady plays with big rebounds, 3 assists for Chris Howell, and great defense and communication by him as well. Tomislav Buljan got the start at the big man position. Very impressive, 15 rebounds, 8 points, going 3 of 7 for the field in 24 minutes. And another freshman, even though Tomislav Buljan is 23 years old, he's considered a freshman. The other freshman next to him, Jake Hall from the San Diego area, gets the start, finishes with 14 points. I'll get into his performance more, but interesting to have the freshman start. I think we expected it, though. If you watched the exhibition games, he did start the first exhibition versus Washington State. More interesting to me, Kevin Patton Jr. only had 10 minutes, really the last one off the bench, besides Vicentich and Pones, who got garbage time minutes at the end of the game. So interesting that Kevin Patton Jr. really hasn't found a place in the rotation this early. I don't expect that to carry on throughout the year, because I think he has too much talent and ability to not find a place. I think it's just figuring out what his role will be and becoming a master of that role. To Javis Miller, transfer from North Dakota State, really impressive night. In only 13 minutes, knockdown shooter, went 3 of 3 from three-point land, 4 of 5 total from the field in those minutes, and had 2 rebounds as well. Very impressed with Tajavis. Can immediately see he, being a senior, very experienced player, knows his role already, it seems like, as a knockdown shooter that's going to be expected to put points up on the board coming off the bench. Uriah Tenet high-flying freshman, also had 14 points to go along with Jake Hall's 14, tying for the scoring leaders of the game. 24 minutes for Tannett, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, played very solid for his first college game. As I mentioned, Tomeo Pons, Milos Vicentić did not get very many minutes. JT Rock did get in there with 9 minutes, was one of the first subs after the 16-minute break in the first half. Seemed fairly effective on defense, was rotating well, challenging shots, had 4 rebounds in those 9 minutes, only got up 2 shots, finished with 3 points, which was good. There were some times where he was open right in the middle on offense, and Tannett neglected to give him the ball and instead shot a 3 one time, and another time down the floor, I think they could have got him the ball. And I'm not expecting JT Rock to score every time he touches the ball down low, or Bullion for that matter, but when the ball touches the paint in this offense, good things come out of it. It allows cutters to get downhill and get the ball, or it opens up shooters off of ball rotations and things. So I think JT Rock and Bullion seem like they can make good decisions out of the post. So the more they get the ball to them, I think better things will happen on offense. As far as shooting totals for the game, Lobos shot very well, 40% from three-point land, going 8 of 20 and 43% overall from the field, 27 of 63. So only taking 20 of their 63 shots from three-point land. In the exhibition, I think we saw more than half of those shots come from three-point land. So I think you're seeing the shot selection go back to maybe what Coach Olen would like, taking shotters or smarter shots and not just jacking up any open look because it's there. Things that stood out, though, we'll get into the Lobos defense, obviously phenomenal, holding the Lions to 14 points in the first half, which is incredible. Although they did, for the defensive effort, Lobos did kind of let up in the second half, allowing 40 points, I think, in the last 17 minutes or so of that game. But as I mentioned, this defense was expected to set the tone, and they seem connected and like they're communicating very well. And that goes for most players that touch the court. East Texas A&M, like I mentioned, only had 14 points in the first half, was held to 34% shooting overall on the game and a dreadful 15% from three-point land, missing their first 23 pointers. And the Lobos really were taking pride in crowding them on the defensive closeouts, getting that stick hand up, as we like to call it, right in the guy's face, and making those shots difficult. And I did watch East Texas A&M's first game where they played a smaller school out of Texas. And, these guys can make shots, but the Lobos made it a whole different ball game than when you're playing a Division II school like East Texas played in their first game a couple of days ago. So Lobos' ability to force 21 turnovers was significant. I think they got over 20 points off those turnovers, and that's exactly a piece of the game that Coach Olen expects this team to have throughout the season, and they really showed on the defensive end. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Coming out in a man-to-man defense with the starters is what I noticed, and then changed to the zone or matchup zone when JT Rock, Luke Haupt, Tannett, and others came in the game with that second rotation, including Tajavis Miller. They went to the zone. JT Rock was very active, created some turnovers for the Lions, and Lobos were able to get out and run off of those or get good possessions. So this defense is always changing. They could be in a zone, one set down, then be in a man coming off a different possession, a couple plays later. So very excited about what this defense has in store this season. Getting over to some of the offensive highlights, as I mentioned, 2 freshmen leading the way offensively, Jake Hall and Tannett, each with 14 points, which I would have not expected myself for these 2 guys to be the leading scorers and leading shot takers for the Lobos. 12 shots up for Jake Hall, making 6 of them. Tannett going 5 for 11 himself. And these guys look like, they were ready to go. They're already at the level that they need to be to affect a Division One basketball game. And that'll be yet to be seen in Mountain West play. It's still hard for me to see these guys being as effective against a Utah State or a San Diego State who will just physically outmatch a team like the Lobos and maybe overpower some of our smaller guards. But in this early non-con season, I think these 2 freshmen can continue to excel. But once we get into conference play, it's going to be a whole another ball game, and I don't know how effective these guys will be. I'm not doubting their powers here, but watching San Diego State is a whole different ball game, and I know we're a long ways away from that, and Lobos have a lot of time to mesh before then. But I'm just speaking about the physical tools and abilities of the players when you compare them to some of the other Mountain West teams. They're going to have to compensate for that with this defense and with these offensive schemes that seem to still need some improvement at this point. 23-year-old Tomislav Boljan, as I mentioned, started down low, dominated the paint really with 15 rebounds, and you can just see his strength against some of these younger players he's playing against. He's 4 or 5 years older than some of the players he's going to play against. He's played professional basketball. So at times you could just see him using that strength, that experience to bulldoze guys. Did have a couple turnovers, I think 3 turnovers, but also had 3 steals and finished 3 of 7 for the field. One thing also impressive, was able to grab a rebound on the defensive end, take the ball himself coast to coast, and go up on the other end and draw a foul at the rim. So really expecting big things from Boljan. I did have him as one of the players I would have selected for my all-conference team in the Mountain West. But as we look at this offense, I think it's really still a work in progress, as we know. There was at points in the game where it seemed like the ball was sticking and there was a lot of dribble heavy one-on-one play, a lot of guys watching, and that's why I'm saying it's so important for the ball to touch the paint, whether that's on a pass down low or a drive by an Albury, a Hall, a Tannett with a kick out or a drop off is really going to be important, because we saw a lot of times where Tannett or Albury is trying to create off the dribble and it's just taking too long. Or when they're at their end of the dribble decisions, many times for Albury, the finish wasn't there or the pass was just coming out sloppy. So a lot of room to improve, but shooting the ball was much better than what we saw in these preseason games. Of course, Lobos, like I mentioned, hitting 40% of their shots from 3, 8 of 20, 15 assists on their 27 field goals. You'd like to see that go up. And I think we'll expect Albury to shoot the ball a little better going forward. But in these first preseason and then first game, real game here, not shooting the ball too well, going 2 of 8 for 8 points or 6 points, but still able to hit the paint, and you can see the ability is there. I think it's just a matter of time before his impact is felt more. And I think Tajavis Miller, to me, is really going to be a big part of this team's offense, because off the bench, like I mentioned, 11 points in those 13 minutes, and really looked the most comfortable, I think, of the players coming off the bench besides Tannett, and excited to see what Miller continues to do this year. Things that, other than just what was taking place on the court last night, a little bit of news that came out about the Lobos via Jeff Grammer in his pregame show for the Albuquerque Journal, and then mentioned by Rob Portnoy on the TV broadcast on Altitude Sports, is that Kalai Patton, sophomore guard or redshirt freshman, I believe that transferred over from USC, has had a lower body injury. I think they said a knee injury, allegedly, and he will be out for the season. And right now is, I believe, per Jeff Grammer's quick comment, I believe he's deciding when to have the surgery or what surgery will be appropriate. So Kalai Patton, brother of Kevin Patton, um, redshirt freshman, will be out the remainder of the season, and freshman Sir Marius Jones out of the Sacramento region will be redshirting this season. He's a 6'4" guard that was a two-time Sacramento area high school player of the year, has a lot of game, but you can see the guard position just really loaded right now for the Lobos. So I think Sir Marius will hopefully stick around and have an impact in this program later down the road, but can understand why he will be redshirting this year. So Lobos, I think, down to, what would that be, 12 players then that can suit up. I'm sure if worse gets to worse, Sir Marius will burn that redshirt season and come play if there's an injury issue or something down the line. But one thing many people, I think, were scratching their heads about online that I was reading, and just other comments people have been making, is the playing time of Timeo Pons, freshman from France, that really showed out well in the U19 tournament over the summer for France. And I don't think it's really that head scratching because he's only been in the US a short time, was the last player to join the roster, missed a few weeks or maybe a month of the initial practice time. And I think he has the skill, but it'll take him time to fit into the system defensively and offensively as well, and carve out a role for himself. And I don't think Coach Olen, any of these coaches, are going to be holding him off the court if he was able to play. We're already seeing two freshmen impact the game with Tannett and Hall starting the game. So if Pons was able um, to contribute on this team, he would be playing right now. And if he's able to play, contribute later in the year, then he'll be playing. I think the ability is there, but obviously he just hasn't shown what he's need to show in order to be in the game. And Coach Olin isn't bashful about playing anyone at any time. So when his time is ready, he will play. That time is not now. But I'm looking forward to when that time comes, just like all the other fans. Coming up next, Lobos will host UT Arlington, who won their first game the other day. The game this weekend will be on Saturday at 2 p.m., November 8th. UT Arlington currently was sitting at 181 in KenPom last night when I looked. They're out of the WAC conference and were picked by the media to be fourth in that conference, losing a few of their key players over the offseason, but returning a key player in Rayshawn Seamster Sr., a forward player who is named to the preseason all-conference team in the WAC. And I think the Lobos will continue to play, 9, 10 guys in this game if they're feeling comfortable. Coach Olin played, I think, 9, 10 guys in the first half early of this game against East Texas A&M, and everybody looked fairly comfortable out there. If it's a tighter game, obviously rotations could be cut down based on who's playing the best in that game. Still looking for Albury to have more of an impact on offense. Maybe not have Jake Hall be the primary shooter at this point, getting Chol more open looks and Bullion more touches down low are some things I'd like to see on offense as, they keep up this defensive pressure that they applied in the first game. And I think if you look around the Mountain West Conference from the first few games here, you have to be impressed with how Coach Olen was able to get this defense so connected and guys bought in to what he wants to do. Because if you see Boise State losing their early game to a Division II school, Hawaii Pacific, they did not look connected on the court, not a lot of communication, looking around at the end of the game. And then if you see UNLV dropping to UT Martin, they have a big mountain to climb and definitely did not seem to be on the same page offensively or defensively. I know they had a bunch of starting players out, but they did not look anywhere near to the level of connectedness that the Lobos had. And I know we're still early, long way to go, but the Mountain West is sure having some road bumps so far in these early games. Of course, like I mentioned, Boise State, UNLV going down to teams they were favored to beat by double digits. Fresno State going down to a school I've never heard of last night late. So I think you have to be happy with this initial product the Lobos have shown and what Coach Olen has put out there. So looking forward, like I said, to this UTA game this weekend. Lobos are 5-0 all time against UTA, Texas Arlington, of course, and a memorable finish 2 years ago in 2023, where Donovan Dent went coast to coast to defeat Texas Arlington 80-80 with a buzzer-beating layup, and I will play that for you on the way out here. Again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, listening, liking, subscribing on podcast channels and YouTube. Thanks to my mom for being my salesperson out there in Albuquerque, telling people about the pod. Appreciate that as well. And I promised I'm going to play the audio here and video from Donovan Dent's game-winning drive last year, or not 2 years ago, against UT Arlington to win the game. This will be the Lobos' upcoming opponent this weekend on Saturday. Looking forward to that one as well. And here is Rob Portnoy with that fantastic call 2 years ago to wrap up the pod here. Thanks, everyone. This has been the Cherry Heat Check.
Only one in the backcourt right now. Looks like they might double him. Yeah. He sprints through the double teams. Dent across the timeline. Dent can't step to the rim. Layup is good with 5 10